for Greene County. I was hoping they're going to pay
They
for
gotta
more
house all those
voting
pit
stuff.
bulls.
Yeah.
They're going to use to build some more judicial facilities, like I was saying before, not just the jail. But this came down.
More taxing and spending, right?
Well, they're
That's what it
they're
boils down
doing
to. More government.
the half-cent increase, which will be like
More
25
government.
million more a year. Which I find it's interesting that John's the one arguing against less government,
I
no
tell you,
taxes.
let me
but-
tell you that anything there's this force field around Greene County where everything's upside down. So yeah, you've got you're lefty guy, right?
Yeah.
And you're against the tax and spending. You have the quote Republicans running the county. That's all they ever want to do is raise taxes and spend
It
money.
absolutely
This world
is. Every one of
upside-
these guys is a Republican, complaining and moaning about government. Every one
know,
of them
funny thing is that
getting
you're
a
right.
check off the government, living off the government, working for the government.
When
They hate
you,
government so much, give up their salary and quit their
I know,
job.
and they do. They tax they're always asking for more money, and they're always talking about expanding. You're right. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
When,
absolutely
that's
when,
the
you, when, you get, when you
Republicans.
get into the seat, you realize that there's only one way to run the government, and it's through having more money. So
I call it hypocrisy.
it's funny
It
how
is
that works out.
hypocrisy, yeah.
It is. I mean, people should realize that the government needs a certain amount of money to run.
And speaking of
Well,
hypocrisy,
the operative term is certain amount. There is
Right.
never a certain amount with them. They always instead of certain, it's more.
Right.
They always want more.
Well, you just
tax
have
and
to
spend
know.
Republicans.
You have to
All
know
they
at
like
what
to do.
point your programs aren't needed anymore. But anyway, back to the plans.
Yes.
So, I found it. I'll make a disclaimer here about Lincoln Huff. I don't necessarily like him too much. I think he's abandoning his Greene
You're
County
off the
Commissioner
Christmas
post.
list now.
I think he needs to finish his term. I think he's I don't know what he's trying to do with his political career. But I have to say, when I looked between his plan and the county commissioner's plan, I liked his plan more. I think his plan reflects more of what the people of Greene County and Missouri in general like. I think it was more of a Republican plan.
Can I hold up a minute?
Sure.
The people of Missouri like. Who checked with the
Greene
people?
County.
How do we know that?
Based on how they usually
Based
handle,
on the 20,
based on how they usually historically handle tax increases, I think his plan follows more what they
First,
want.
Is it less?
What I'm objecting
As
to
soon as he
is
finishes
the
complaining,
yeah. I need to vent and complain here for a minute. This blanket statement, the people of. Okay, all of us here are pretty. We try to stay up with politics and everything else, and even so, I care about on a scale of 0 to 10 about this thing. I care about a 3. Okay, so I feel like
certainly are interjecting a lot for a
He is.
3. I'd hate to see a 7 or 8.
if I really cared a lot about it, I'd probably interject more. And so the people of Missouri probably don't really care about this or understand it, because I know I don't particularly care about it or understand it that much either. And so these blanket statements, what the people want, that's BS. That's just jamming down an agenda
But
and
then
telling the public
I
that's what they
clarified
care
it by
about.
saying by how they historically vote on taxes. I mean, that's
But the
all
peop-
you can use is past data, voter data, to determine these sort of things.
My interpretation of what he said is that it was more in line with what people in Greene County would find acceptable than the other.
It's more
plan.
palatable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Based on having been swindled or misled, and
You were
and on
just
prior
extremely
elections.
negative this morning. This
I'm
is
gonna-
amazing.
Yes, this is now we know what it is. He's a Democrat, but for Halloween, he's against higher
There we
taxes
go.
and less
Oh, we
spending.
figured it out.
That's what he's
Halloween
dressed
and April
as.
Fools.
He's
Now,
dressed
I'm-
as a
I'm-
conservative.
I'm harassing John, but he does bring up very good points. I'm glad that he's here to make these counterpoints because it's true. You need to make
See,
sure you
this
keep
is a true diplomat
this
right
eye out for it.
There's the true adult in the room.
So,
Oh.
I found this interesting. The Lincoln Huff tax plan. Well, the Greene County, first off, the Greene County commissioners, the other two that were on there, they just want to do the half-cent increase, and they've had multiple studies done. They've had consultants come in. They've done years of research, and they say, well, this is what we need to do to fund the jail, to do the unfunded mandates from the federal government.
Did you say infinite mandates?
Unfunded mandates.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Which I wonder whether or not we can, from the federal government, it feels like infinite sometimes.
All right, just sounds like another Republican
See,
tax and spend
a
infinite
Mobius.
mandate trick. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mobius strip.
I could go into a whole bunch of all these details on these things, but actually I can't because I don't know all the details. But there are certain things from unfunded mandates that are interesting. But so Lincoln Huff comes in and he's done some research and he comes to these people and he says, well, look, I want to do what's best by the Greene County people. Greene County is what he was saying, and what he wants to do is do a 3/8 of a cent tax increase, and then have 1/8 of the cent of that is going to be for the jail. And that'll sunset in 10 years, which in Missouri we like sunsets on taxes because then we know when it's going to end. And then the 1/4 cent is going to stay on indefinitely. And what he was saying is that, we'll use this 1/8 cent of a tax, we'll pay off the jail in 10 years, and then at that point in time we can ask the voters again if they want that tax to stay, and we can use it for other projects. And he made a very good point of, we need to be like the city of Springfield where they do these increases and then they sunset it, but then they ask people, well, we have these projects, we completed all these ones like we said we were going to.
Well,
and
I just
now
hope
we
at
want some more
election time
taxes.
for Lincoln here that, on the campaign attack ads, Lincoln Huff raised your taxes. Boom.
It'll probably happen. But that was one point that brought up in these meetings is that, you're doing this just as a tactic because you want to show that you're against these taxes and you're just trying to get voted into higher office. And there's probably a lot of truth to that.
Well,
but at the same time, I think his tax plan actually reflects what people want here in Greene County.
Well, and again, I think that what a world we live in where, because these are all theoretically, they're Republicans.
Yes.
All three of those commissioners. And it's not about, again, lower taxes or smaller government. They're arguing over how much to increase taxes, the Republicans in Greene County. But they get at their target barbecues, and like John said, talk about lower taxes and smaller government, but then they get out there and they're fighting over how much to raise taxes.
Yeah.
Which, okay, fine, but don't lie about who you are. I just can't stand that dishonesty.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It drives me nuts.
And, if they want to be more truthful, they need to talk about how they're going to raise taxes for specific things, because like the federally unfunded mandates are a big thing. The fact that our county is growing,
and building on
we need
that,
more revenue. It's just
building on that point with Nick. Even if it were necessary, that would be a fine thing, I suppose. If it were absolutely, positively,
and you took the time to explain it all.
But the thing is like, the ideology is so firm and so anti-tax most of the time, and here it is flipping. It's flipping over, and now it's permissive and whatnot. And so I prefer.
Well, that's the hypocrisy of politics, unfortunately.
Well,
you say what you say
here's the thing.
To get elected.
Here's the thing. Politics doesn't have to be hypocritical.
I agree.
But
people should actually talk about the truth.
But I think the voters are hypocritical because you have in Greene County a lot of people that say, I'm for, I believe that lower taxes are good, they stimulate the economy, that it's better, smaller government's better, and then they vote for people like Lincoln Huff or Bob Certain or Harold Bench, who all argue over how much to increase taxes.
And so the way
they all run around saying, "No, we believe in lower taxes." So
but then the way to do this is to be honest all across the board. The voters got to be honest,
I agree,
and the elected officials have to be honest. And sometimes you got to do things you don't want to need to do.
We're like a
it requires a more informed public.
Quit trying to jam ideology or like this fixed way of looking at the world. Sometimes we got to use good judgment and do things we don't want to do, and so on.
We're like a dysfunctional family on intervention. Nobody wants to acknowledge that everyone's part of the problem.
That's right.
Hey, I'll acknowledge it.
I'm Nick Reed.